Have you ever seen a mother publicly humiliate her daughter at a wedding in front of hundreds of guests? Picture this scenario: your sister's wedding ceremony, 200 attendees including judges, attorneys, Boston's social elite all observing. Your mother suddenly produces legal documents on the altar, demanding you transfer your $2 million penthouse as a wedding present to your sister. When you refuse, her hand strikes your face with such force that your earring flies across the marble flooring. That became my reality on March 15th, 2024. Everyone expected tears, apologies, submission like always before. Instead, I collected my earring, departed the venue, and placed one crucial phone call. Within an hour, someone entered that reception hall. When my mother recognized the visitor, she began screaming, because the person she'd convinced everyone was senile and incompetent had arrived with legal counsel and evidence of everything she'd concealed. This story begins 3 years earlier. The telephone rang on a Tuesday evening in March 2021. I occupied my studio apartment in Somerville, consuming leftover pad thai while reviewing blueprints for a client's kitchen renovation when my grandmother's name illuminated my phone display. "Olivia, darling," Catherine Montgomery said, her voice maintaining its characteristic steadiness. "I must tell you something, and I need your complete attention." My grandmother had served as a Harvard Law School professor for 31 years before retirement. She never wasted words. When she informed me she was revising her will and bequeathing me the penthouse at 150 Harbor Boulevard, purchased in 2015 for $1.8 million, currently valued above $2 million, I set down my chopsticks and listened carefully. "Why me?" I asked, not from reluctance but genuine confusion. "Because you're the only visitor," she stated simply. "Every Sunday for 10 years, Olivia, while your mother dispatches Christmas cards and your sister sends nothing whatsoever. You bring me tulips because you remember my preference. You sit with me when I have nothing interesting to discuss." Tears pricked my eyes. "Grandmother, the paperwork will be completed next month. Harrison Webb is managing everything. He's represented me for 20 years. She paused meaningfully. "Your mother will not be pleased." That proved to be the century's greatest understatement. Within weeks, news leaked to my family. By April 2021, my mother had organized what she termed a family discussion at her $4 million Beacon Hill residence. Entering that living room, I observed how they'd positioned themselves. My father Richard occupied his leather armchair. My mother Helen sat on the settee. My sister Ashley perched on the couch arm like she was modeling for photographs. They'd arranged themselves as a tribunal. "Olivia," Mother's voice was honey over broken glass, "we must discuss your grandmother's condition." "Her condition?" I sat in the only vacant seat, a straight-back chair facing all three. "She seems perfectly fine to me." "She's clearly not thinking rationally." Helen crossed her legs, her Cartier bracelet catching light, leaving a $2 million property to one grandchild, excluding everyone else. That's not rational woman's behavior. "She's not excluding anyone. She's giving me something she wants me to have. That's her right." Ashley released a small theatrical sob. "This is so unfair. I've always loved grandmother. I simply don't have time to visit like you do. I have a career. I have a life." "You have a trust fund and a fiancé with a yacht," I thought but didn't voice. "The fair approach," my father spoke for the first time, his voice measured in that way attorneys cultivate, "would be for you to decline the inheritance, or at minimum agree to sell the property and split proceeds equally among family members." I stared at Richard Montgomery, who hadn't asked me a single question about my existence in years. Richard Montgomery, who'd missed my college graduation for a scheduling conflict that proved to be a golf tournament. That Richard Montgomery was now lecturing me about fairness. "I'm not declining anything," I said, "and I'm not selling anything. Grandmother made this decision because she wanted to. If you have problems with it, discuss it with her." The room's temperature dropped 10 degrees. Helen's smile vanished. "Then I hope you're prepared for the consequences of such selfishness." The consequences arrived swiftly. By summer 2021, I'd been quietly eliminated from the family text chain. I learned about Ashley's engagement party through an Instagram post, a photo of her surrounded by our cousins, champagne glasses raised at the Boston Harbor Hotel. The caption read, "Future Mrs. Sterling," with 3 diamond emojis. Nobody had informed me. Nobody had invited me. When I questioned my mother about it, she said, "Oh, we assumed you wouldn't want to attend. You've been so busy with your little decorating business." My little decorating business was a licensed interior design studio with 12 active clients and revenue that had doubled in the past year. But to Helen Montgomery, anything that wasn't a law degree or a wealthy husband was merely a hobby. The worst part wasn't the exclusion. It was the stories Helen began circulating to anyone willing to listen. Olivia manipulated my mother. I overheard her say at a neighborhood gathering I'd attended uninvited. I visited constantly, turned her against the family. You understand how vulnerable elderly people can become. She painted me as a predator, a schemer, the ungrateful daughter who'd exploited a confused old woman for profit. Through all of it, I never corrected her publicly. I never created scenes. I thought if I remained quiet, if I kept my head down, eventually the storm would pass. I didn't understand that silence was precisely what she was counting on. What I also didn't understand was why grandmother Catherine had moved to Brookhaven Senior Living in late 2021, a luxury facility in Wellesley costing $12,000 monthly. She told me she wanted peace and quiet. She told me she was tired of drama. But sometimes during my Sunday visits, I caught something in her eyes, a flicker that looked almost like fear. "Grandmother," I asked once, "did something happen between you and Mother?" She looked out the window at the manicured gardens for a long moment. "Some things are better left alone," she finally said. "At least for now." I let it go. I shouldn't have. 3 years would pass before I understood what she was hiding, and why she'd chosen to hide it. December 2023, 3 months before the wedding that would change everything. I was in my studio on a Friday afternoon reviewing fabric samples when the mail arrived. Among the invoices and catalogs was an envelope of heavy cream cardstock. My name written in calligraphy so elaborate, it took me a moment to decipher it. Inside was an invitation. Ashley's wedding. March 15th, 2024. The Fairmont Copley Plaza. Black tie. For a full minute, I just stared at it. After 2 years of being treated like a ghost, no holidays, no birthdays, no casual texts, they were inviting me to the wedding. My phone rang that same evening. "Olivia, darling." Helen's voice was warm, almost affectionate. I hadn't heard that tone since before the inheritance news broke. "Did you receive Ashley's invitation?" "I did." "Wonderful. You know, this wedding is going to be such a beautiful opportunity for our family to heal, to move forward." She paused meaningfully. "To show everyone that the Montgomerys are united." I waited. "I've been thinking," she continued, and there it was, the real reason for the call. This would be the perfect time to revisit our conversation about the penthouse. Ashley and Jonathan will need a place to live after the honeymoon, somewhere appropriate for a young couple starting their life together. I closed my eyes. Of course, the invitation wasn't an olive branch. It was bait. "Mother, the penthouse is mine. Grandmother left it to me. That hasn't changed." "Nothing has to change, my sweetheart. You could simply transfer the property as a wedding gift. Think of how generous that would look. Think of how proud Grandmother would be to see you supporting your sister." The audacity took my breath away, using my grandmother, the woman who had specifically chosen to give me that apartment, as an argument for why I should give it away. "I'm not transferring anything." The warmth evaporated. "Ashley deserves a proper start. She's marrying into the Sterling family. Do you understand what that means? Jonathan's father is a managing partner at Ropes and Gray. They'll be entertaining. They'll be hosting. They need a home that reflects their status. Then Jonathan's father can buy them one. Silence stretched between us. When Helen spoke again, her voice was ice. I expect you to think carefully about this before the wedding, and I expect you to make the right choice. She hung up. 1 week before the wedding, my phone rang at 7 a.m. Grandmother Catherine. "Sweetheart," she said, her voice carrying particular urgency I'd only heard a handful of times. "I need you to listen carefully." "I'm listening." "If something happens at that wedding, and I believe something will, I want you to call Harrison Webb immediately. The number is 617-55-0142. Can you write that down?" I grabbed a pen. "Grandmother, what are you talking about? What's going to happen?" "Your mother thinks I don't know what she's planning. She forgets that I was practicing law before she was born." Catherine's voice was steady, but I heard steel beneath it. "I've prepared everything, Olivia. Harrison has all the documents. If you need them, they're ready." "Documents? What documents?" "Just remember the number, and remember," she paused, "that I love you. Whatever happens, I love you." She hung up before I could ask anything more. March 15th, 2024, 5 p.m. The Fairmont Copley Plaza rose above Copley Square like a monument to old money and older traditions. Walking through those gilded doors as a guest, as a Montgomery, felt like entering enemy territory. The ballroom was breathtaking. White orchids cascaded from crystal chandeliers. A 12-piece jazz ensemble played Gershwin in the corner. Waiters in black ties circulated with champagne flutes and canapes on silver trays. Every detail screamed expense, taste, and Helen Montgomery's personal touch. 200 guests. I'd counted the chairs during cocktail hour. Lawyers, doctors, investment bankers, old Boston families whose names appeared on hospital wings and university buildings. These were the people my mother had spent 3 decades impressing. Her audience, her witnesses. I wore a navy blue dress, elegant but not attention-seeking. I had debated for hours about what to wear. Knowing anything too expensive would be called showing off the penthouse money, and anything too simple would be embarrassing the family. Richard found me near the ice sculpture, a swan, naturally, 10 minutes after I arrived. "Olivia." My father nodded, his eyes sliding past me like I was furniture he was trying not to bump into. "Glad you could make it, Dad." We stood in silence. After 32 years, we had nothing to say to each other. Ashley appeared in a cloud of white tulle and Swarovski crystals, her veil trailing behind her like a promise of the life she'd always believed she deserved. She hugged me, arms circling but not quite touching, the way you'd embrace a stranger at a networking event. "Olivia, you came." Her smile was camera-ready. "Perfect teeth, perfect makeup, perfect performance. Of course I came. You're my sister." She pulled back and her expression shifted. Subtle, calculating. "Did you bring the paperwork?" I blinked. "What paperwork?" "Mother said you'd have the transfer documents ready by today." Ashley's voice was light, almost playful, but her eyes were hard. "For the penthouse, our wedding gift." So this was it. They'd already decided among themselves that I would comply. The invitation, the phone call, the reconciliation theater, all of it was just a prelude to this moment. "Ashley, there are no transfer documents." "What do you mean?" "I mean the penthouse is mine. It's not a gift. It's not up for discussion." Her perfect smile flickered. But Mother said, "I don't know what Mother told you, but I'm not signing anything. Not today. Not ever." Ashley's jaw tightened. For a moment, she looked exactly like Helen, the same flash of fury barely contained. "You know, Jonathan and I were planning to move in after the honeymoon. We already told the realtor we wouldn't need the condo in Back Bay. We already told everyone. You told everyone about an apartment that doesn't belong to you. It should belong to us." Her voice rose slightly. "You don't even need it. You live in that little place in Somerville. You don't entertain. You don't have anyone to impress. What's the point of you having a $2 million penthouse? The point? What was the point of me having anything nice, anything valuable, anything that suggested I might matter as much as she did? I'd spent my whole life being asked that question in different ways. The point, I said quietly, is that grandmother wanted me to have it, and her wishes matter more than your real estate plans. Ashley stared at me. Then she leaned in close, her bridal perfume overwhelming. Mother's going to handle this, she whispered. And when she does, don't say I didn't warn you. 7:30 Sactin p.m. Dinner had been served and cleared. The toasts had been made. Richard's stiff, perfunctory speech about legacy and family values. Jonathan's father, waxing poetic about the merger of two great Boston families. I sat at table 14 near the back, with a collection of distant cousins and family friends who seemed unsure why I was there. Fine by me. I wanted to be invisible. But Helen Montgomery had other plans. The clink of metal against crystal cut through the room's chatter. My mother stood at the head table, champagne flute in hand, microphone in the other. Her smile was radiant, her Valentino gown glittering under the chandeliers. "Pa, if I could have everyone's attention," she said, "I'd like to take a moment for something very special, a family tradition that Ashley has asked me to facilitate." I felt the first prickle of warning at the base of my spine. As many of you know, the Montgomery family believes in taking care of each other. We support each other. We make sacrifices for each other. Helen's eyes swept the room, landing briefly on me before moving on. And tonight, in the spirit of that love, I'd like to invite my eldest daughter, Olivia, to join me up here. 200 pairs of eyes turned toward table 14. I didn't move. I couldn't move. "Olivia, sweetheart." Helen's voice carried a note of gentle encouragement that I knew was performance. "Come on up, honey. Don't be shy." What choice did I have? If I refused, I would be the difficult one, the ungrateful one, the sister who ruined Ashley's wedding with her stubbornness. I stood. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else as I walked through the maze of tables, past the whispered comments and curious stares, up to the raised platform where my mother waited with her serpent smile. There she is. Helen put an arm around my shoulders, a gesture of affection for the audience, a grip of control for me. "Now everyone, Olivia has been holding on to something very precious. Our mother, my mother, left her a beautiful penthouse apartment in the Seaport District, $2.1 million in value, quite an inheritance." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Olivia has been keeping it safe," Helen continued, "waiting for just the right moment to share it with the family. And what better moment than this? Ashley's wedding day. The start of her new life with Jonathan." She produced a folder from somewhere, I hadn't even seen her holding it, and opened it to reveal a thick stack of legal documents. Transfer of deed, quitclaim agreement. My name already typed in the signature lines. All Olivia needs to do is sign, and this incredible gift will help Ashley and Jonathan start their marriage in a home that truly reflects their future. The room actually applauded. They applauded like this was a heartwarming moment, like I was about to perform an act of sisterly love, not be publicly coerced into giving away my inheritance. "Mother." My voice was quiet but steady. "I'm not signing this." Helen's smile didn't waver. "Don't be nervous, sweetheart. It's just paperwork." "It's not just paperwork. It's the apartment grandmother Catherine left to me. Not to Ashley, not to the family, to me." The applause died. The silence that replaced it was deafening. "Olivia." Helen's grip on my shoulder tightened. Her voice dropped, but the microphone still carried it. "Let's not make this difficult. I'm not making it anything. I'm telling you no." Ashley appeared at the edge of the platform, her face a mask of wounded innocence. "Olivia, you're really going to do this on my wedding day?" "Ashley, I didn't ask to be called up here. I didn't ask to be put on display. You all set this up without even asking me. Because we knew you'd be selfish, Ashley spat. We knew you'd choose that stupid apartment over your own family. The apartment isn't stupid when you want to live in it. Jonathan's father coughed uncomfortably. A waiter near the kitchen doors looked frozen in place, tray suspended in air. This was not the elegant evening anyone had envisioned. Helen's composure finally cracked. Her face reddened. Her voice rose. You ungrateful child. The microphone amplified every syllable. After everything we've done for you, after we raised you, educated you, supported your little business, you can't do this one thing for your sister. You didn't support my business. You've never even been to my studio. And you didn't raise me. Grandmother did every summer while you were at conferences and galas and anywhere else that wasn't home. Gasps scattered through the audience. I'd said too much. I knew it, but I couldn't stop. The penthouse is mine because grandmother wanted me to have it, because I was there, because I cared. And no amount of public humiliation is going to change that. Helen's hand moved so fast I didn't see it coming. The slap connected with my left cheek hard enough to snap my head sideways. My silver earring, the one grandmother Catherine had given me for my 30th birthday, flew off my ear and bounced across the marble floor with a sound like a small bell. The room went absolutely silent. For a moment, I stood perfectly still. My cheek burned, my vision blurred. I could feel every eye in that ballroom boring into me, waiting to see what I would do. What I did was breathe. I bent down. I picked up the earring. It was slightly bent, but not broken. I straightened it carefully, methodically, and put it back on my ear. Then I looked at my mother. That's the last time you touch me, I said. My voice didn't shake. I was proud of that. I turned and walked off the platform, through the tables, past the whispers and the stares and the jazz band that had stopped playing mid-note, out the double doors of the ballroom, and into the lobby. I didn't run. I didn't cry. I found a quiet corner near the concierge desk, pulled out my phone, and dialed the number I'd saved a week ago. It rang once. Harrison Webb's office. This is Olivia Montgomery, I said. My voice was calm, steady, certain. Please tell my grandmother that the documents are needed. Understood, Miss Montgomery. She'll be there within the hour. 8:45 p.m. I was still on that velvet bench when the main doors of the Fairmont Copley Plaza opened and my grandmother walked in. Catherine Montgomery was 78 years old. She moved with a cane now, her gait slower than I remembered from my childhood, but everything else about her radiated the same formidable presence that had made her one of the most respected professors at Harvard Law for 3 decades. She wore a gray cashmere coat over a simple black dress. Her silver hair was pinned back elegantly, and beside her walked Harrison Webb, mid-40s, wire-rimmed glasses, charcoal suit, carrying a leather briefcase that looked like it contained the weight of the world. Grandmother. I stood up, and for a moment my composure cracked. You came. She crossed the lobby and took my face in her hands, examining my cheek with eyes that missed nothing. She hit you. Yes. Catherine's jaw tightened. Then she kissed my forehead gently, the way she had when I was a child and had fallen off my bicycle. Then let's finish this, she said. We walked into the ballroom together. The wedding was in chaos. Clusters of guests huddled in conversation, their champagne forgotten. Ashley was crying, actually crying this time, while Jonathan and his parents hovered nearby, looking mortified. Helen stood near the head table, gesturing emphatically to Richard, who seemed to be trying to calm her down. No one noticed us at first. Then someone gasped, then someone else. And then Helen turned and saw her mother walking toward her across the marble floor. Mother. The word came out strangled. Helen's face went white. How are you? I'm here for my granddaughter's wedding, Catherine said, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. I wasn't invited, Of course. But I decided to come anyway. I hope Ashley doesn't mind. Ashley, mascara streaming down her cheeks, could only stare. What is this? Helen's voice rose. What are you doing here? I'm doing what I should have done 3 years ago. Catherine stopped about 10 feet from her daughter, close enough for everyone to hear. I'm telling the truth. She turned to face the assembled guests. 200 people, many of them lawyers and judges and professionals who understood exactly what was about to happen. My name is Catherine Montgomery. I was a professor of law at Harvard for 31 years. I am of sound mind, and I am here to confirm that the penthouse at 150 Harbor Boulevard, the property my daughter has been publicly demanding my granddaughter surrender, was left to Olivia Montgomery in my will, dated June 14th, 2019. That will is legal, valid, and enforceable. There are no other claims to that property. Harrison Webb opened his briefcase and withdrew a document. This is a certified copy of Mrs. Montgomery's will, notarized and filed with the Suffolk County Probate Court. I've been her attorney for 23 years and can attest to its authenticity. Helen's face contorted. This is absurd. Mother, you're confused. You don't understand what you're saying. I understand perfectly. Catherine's voice was ice. What you don't understand is that I've been watching you for 3 years. I've been watching. She nodded to Harrison, who withdrew a second set of documents. Then these are transaction records for a property in Cape Cod, a property that was deeded in my name until September 12th, 2020, when it was sold for $875,000. The room went completely silent. I could hear the ice melting in abandoned champagne buckets. I did not sell that property, Catherine continued. I could not have sold that property. I was in Massachusetts General Hospital for 6 weeks that fall, recovering from a broken hip. I signed nothing. I authorized nothing. Helen's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Harrison produced a third document. This is a forensic analysis report from Forensic Document Services, a certified firm specializing in handwriting analysis. They examined the signature on the Cape Cod sale documents against authentic samples of Mrs. Montgomery's handwriting. He turned to the room, his voice carrying the weight of courtroom authority. Their conclusion, the signature is inconsistent with Mrs. Montgomery's authentic hand. Probability of forgery, 98.7%. Murmurs erupted through the ballroom. You're lying, Helen's voice cracked. This is all fabricated. You're senile, Mother. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm sharp enough to hire experts, Catherine replied. I'm sharp enough to preserve evidence. And I'm sharp enough to have forwarded this entire file to the Suffolk County District Attorney's office last week. The color drained completely from Helen's face. You didn't... Forgery and fraud, Helen. Up to 5 years in prison under Massachusetts law. Catherine's voice was almost gentle now, the same tone she'd once used to explain complex legal concepts to first-year students. I didn't want to believe my own daughter could do this. I gave you 3 years to confess, to make it right. But instead, you spent those years slandering my granddaughter, calling her a manipulator, calling me senile, trying to steal her inheritance the same way you stole my property. Helen spun to face Richard. Richard, say something. Stop this. Richard Montgomery, who had stood silently through everything, took a step backward. I didn't know, he said. His voice was flat, empty. I didn't know about the Cape Cod house. You signed the transfer, Helen shrieked. You were there. I signed what you told me to sign. I didn't know it was forged. The room watched in horrified fascination as 35 years of marriage disintegrated in real time. Ashley finally spoke, her voice small and broken. Mother, what is grandmother talking about? Helen didn't answer. She couldn't answer. She stood in the center of her own carefully constructed stage, her perfect wedding, her perfect audience, and everything was falling apart. Catherine turned to me. Her eyes were tired, sad, but resolute. Olivia, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I'm sorry I waited so long. It's okay, grandmother. I took her hand. I understand. She squeezed my fingers. Then she looked at Helen one last time. You lost me the day I discovered what you'd done. Tonight, everyone else just got to see the truth. She paused. I hope someday you find it in yourself to take responsibility, but I won't hold my breath. She turned toward the exit. I walked beside her. Behind us, I heard Helen start screaming. Incoherent denials, accusations, demands that someone do something. I heard Jonathan's parents say something sharp and final to Ashley. I heard the murmur of the crowd crescendo into a roar of gossip and speculation. But I didn't look back. Not once. When I walked out of that ballroom with my grandmother, I wasn't thinking about revenge. I wasn't thinking about winning. I was just thinking about how much time we'd lost and how grateful I was that we still had some left. June 2024, 3 months after the wedding. I'm sitting on the balcony of my penthouse, watching the sun set over Boston Harbor. The sky is streaked with orange and pink, and the water reflects it all like scattered jewels. My grandmother is here now. Catherine comes every Sunday. I pick her up from Brookhaven in the morning and we spend the day together. Sometimes we go to the Museum of Fine Arts. Sometimes we just sit here on this balcony and talk. Today we've been talking about my father. He called me yesterday, I tell her. He wanted to explain, to tell me his side of things. She raises an eyebrow. And he says he didn't know about the Cape Cod house. He says Helen handled all the paperwork and he just signed where she told him. Do you believe him? I think about it, really think. I believe he didn't ask questions. I believe he chose not to know. I believe he's been choosing not to know for 35 years about a lot of things. Catherine nods slowly. And what did you tell him? I told him I needed time, that I wasn't ready to see him yet, that if he wanted a relationship with me, he'd have to earn it. Not by explaining or apologizing, but by actually showing up consistently over time. She reaches over and squeezes my hand. That's a healthy boundary, sweetheart. We sit in comfortable silence for a while. The sunset deepens. Ashley texted me, I add. Last week. She asked if I would call her. She said she wants to talk. And will you? I look out at the harbor, at the boats returning to their moorings, at the city lights beginning to flicker on. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. I pause. She knew, grandmother. Maybe not about the Cape Cod house, but about the pressure, the manipulation, the lies. She was there every time Helen called me selfish or ungrateful. She never once defended me. She never once questioned what she was being told. That's true. If she wants to have a sister, she has to want to know the truth. She has to be willing to see who our mother really is. And I don't think she's there yet. I don't think she wants to be there. I take a breath. So, I'm not closing the door forever, but I'm not opening it until she's ready to walk through it honestly. Catherine smiles, a small, proud smile. You've learned something important, Olivia. Something I wish I'd learned at your age. What's that? That love without respect isn't love, it's just habit. She looks at me with those clear, knowing eyes. You deserve both. This is my life now. A penthouse that's really mine. A grandmother who loves me. A business that's growing. Boundaries that are firm. A future I'm building myself. One honest choice at a time. If you're watching this and maybe you're in a situation where your family expects you to sacrifice yourself for their comfort, maybe you've been told that setting limits is selfish. Maybe you're wondering if you're allowed to want more. You are. You're allowed. Being kind to yourself isn't the opposite of being kind to others. It's the foundation.